What's the deal with the Roe vs. Wade repeal in Arizona, and why is it bad for the GOP? About how Arizona has used the recent Roe vs. Wade repeal to reinstate a near-total ban on abortions. People keep saying this will spell disaster for the GOP and could flip Arizona to blue. I'm missing something. Isn't this what they wanted? Why would this hurt their cause? Is it just that they're fearing a backlash? I mean, the abortion ban is far-reaching, but there are several mainstream Republicans who are opposed to abortion for any reason and might support a bill that would be even more strict. Is it just that they are fearing a backlash once people start dying from being forced to carry ectopic pregnancies and have other horrible things happen? Thanks for clearing this up for me. Answer: have you heard the saying about the dog that caught the car? It's a pretty popular phrase. At least one instance of it was said in The Dark Knight by the Joker, but it references a person who has unexpectedly attained an aspirational goal and is now unsure what to do with it. Another similar phrase would be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. That's the prevailing feeling about the right-wing packed Supreme Court overturning Roe and, in this case, the right-wing packed Arizona Supreme Court using an extremely old tangentially related law to outlaw abortion. The country is overwhelmingly supportive of abortion in at least some cases. Only 13% say it should always be illegal. Abortion was a fantastic issue for the right for decades, because it was always low-hanging fruit to get voters to the polls. When the Republican Party married itself to evangelical Christianity in the late 70s and early 80s, they made restricting abortion a political, moral, and spiritual cornerstone of their party. Save babies, vote Republican. Side note, but it's important to remember that until the late 1970s, evangelical Christianity overwhelmingly was accepting of abortion. Being pro-life was considered a Catholic thing, and Protestants were more than happy to differentiate themselves from Catholics. That changed when evangelical Christianity became part of Big Tent Republicanism in the 1970s. Today a lot of people don't even know that change ever occurred, but as that blog post pointed out, the idea that life begins at conception in Protestant Christianity is newer than the creation of the McDonald's Happy Meal. But ever since Roe was repealed, it's been a double whammy against the GOP. First, now their voters aren't as motivated to vote. Why would they be? The one issue that single-issue voters cared about has now been solved. And since the Supreme Court made it so that it's up to states to decide what restrictions should be on abortion access, once a red state enacts a huge restriction or ban on abortion, there's no risk of it being overturned unless a constitutional amendment passes, which won't happen at a federal level. But second, the shoe is now on the other foot. Now voters who do care about abortion are especially motivated to vote. And why would they vote for the GOP politicians who overturned their right to an abortion in the first place? Since Roe was repealed, the GOP has seen massive backlashes in several states that once leaned red or were deep purple. The 2022 election, which had been expected to deliver a large amount of seats to Republicans, fell flat for them instead. Conservative states like Ohio, Kansas, and Kentucky have had election results turn in favor of pro-reproductive right initiatives, and thus Democrats over Republicans. And horror stories about the unintended consequences of banning abortion, which were screamed from the rooftops by liberals and widely ignored or mocked as being unrealistic by conservatives, are constantly popping up in the news, keeping the issue fresh in the minds of voters. People are horrified when reading about women forced to keep miscarried fetuses, or birth children who die within days in horrible pain, or forcing underage rape victims to give birth. Doctors, especially those involved in OB/GYN capacities, are fleeing from the states with the worst restrictions, impacting everyone seeking healthcare. This isn't a concern for far-right candidates in deep red states, but it's absolutely a concern for GOP candidates in purple states, or even in purple pockets of red states, because the majority of their voters do not want total abortion bans. So candidates like the one you listed above are now trying to pretend they had no idea this would be the outcome and insisting of course they didn't support it. Arizona in particular is important because the state is very narrowly blue and Trump lost their last election. It was expected to be a key battleground state for the 2024 election, but with the Arizona Supreme Court ruling, AZ voters are extremely riled up. Riled up people tend to turn out to vote, making the GOP campaigns both locally and nationally much more difficult. TLDR, the dog, GOP, caught the car, overturned abortion rights, and now are finding out that they only wanted the chase, the single-issue voters who would blindly support pro-life candidates, and are desperately trying to not get run over, losing their elections because everyone else is now motivated to kick them out.